there isn't any more ancestral food in the world than algae.
It's true.
And
We can't go further back than that.
it's just the way it
You
is.
know?
And we're going to get to mitochondria now, but mitochondria actually evolved from algae. So it explains to me why they are so protective of your mitochondria, because your mitochondria determine your health. It's that simple.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm excited and delighted to be joined by Catharine Arnston. She's the founder and CEO of ENERGYbits. Catharine is an expert in algae nutrition. She's a wellness thought leader and an experienced entrepreneur and a sought-after speaker. She has an MBA and BA Hans and is a board-certified health coach. Her journey into the fascinating world of algae began in 2008 when her younger sister was diagnosed with breast cancer and advised by her oncologist that an alkaline diet would improve her healing. So Catharine left her 25-year corporate career to help her sister identify the foods which were alkaline and would lead to her healing. And this led her to algae, the most alkaline, chlorophyll-rich, high-protein, nutrient-dense food in the world. So when Catharine learned about algae's vast healing properties and how documented they were in all these scientific studies, none of which were really here in the West, she knew that she had a mission. And that's how ENERGYbits was born. So she spent the last 13 years researching algae, writing papers, giving presentations, lecturing at conferences, which is where I heard her, and speaking on podcasts and to help educate. And she's done a phenomenal job of bringing algae and the array of health benefits into the forefront and consciousness of the health community in the United States. I credit her for that because before her, I hadn't heard of all these incredible health benefits. So without further ado, thank you so much for beaming in, Catharine.
Well, thank you, Faust, for that lovely introduction, and all of which is true. And my love affair with algae just continues to grow. It's one of those few things in the world that under promises and over delivers. So, and it's Mother Nature's concoction. I'm just the one that's educating people, taking her great creation and making it understandable and safe for people here in the West, because somebody had to.
Yes, and my God, at a time when we really needed it, we really need all the help we can get, and so this ancient wisdom that Mother Nature has provided, it needs to come more to the forefront if we're going to pull through all this mess we're in.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, algae will certainly help.
Absolutely. So your background was corporate, but when we see a family member who is ill, that changes everything. It's
Everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I put my entire life on hold. Because you never think it'll happen to you, but it's either you. Apparently now cancer is so prevalent that 1 in 2 people have cancer. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So people who are listening to this, either you or whoever's sitting beside you, either has or will have cancer, and that's just unacceptable to me. And cancer is the growth of unhealthy cells, and we'll get into what causes that growth, and I'll explain why algae is the best way really to protect yourself and help to regain your health. So the irony is, like I said, as you mentioned, I had a corporate career, but as I dug, I had to teach myself the science because I had to learn what I was reading, because it turns out algae is the most studied food in the world, and as you're going to find out, it is a food. It is not a supplement. It grows everywhere in the lakes, the rivers, the streams, and we grow ours as an agricultural crop hydroponically. But there are 100,000 studies documenting how the different nutrients in algae, many of which aren't found in any other food, like phycocyanin, which is the blue pigment in spirulina, or superoxide dismutase, which is blue, it's an enzyme. It's found in both spirulina and chlorella. It's been proven to stop heart disease, Alzheimer's, reduce the shortening of your telomeres. I mean, the stuff that these nutrients do are off the charts, and yet. And it's very well known in Asia. 99% of algae is grown in Asia, and 99% of it is consumed there. And that's why nobody here in the West really knows about it. Well, I know people are putting scoops of spirulina into their smoothie because they know it's a quote a superfood. But honestly, they probably don't really know what it does. And so I needed to find out what exactly it did from a science perspective. So I had to teach myself science. I call myself a citizen scientist because I've probably read about 3,000 PubMed articles at this point, and there's no shortage of science. But and it turns out I am a bit of a geek. I could have and I should have probably been a scientist, but I have enough science now that I can share. I can take this complex science and help other people who aren't scientists understand what it's doing so that it's not as overwhelming. Because ultimately, if you understand how your body works and what it needs, you will be able to look after yourself. You don't have to have these diseases. Aging does not mean declining, but we've associated it with that. And it's because what's happened in our world right now is our food has virtually no nutrition in it. The soils are so overcropped that there's no minerals left. So even if you are eating a healthy, organic, plant-based diet, and I'm all about regenerative agriculture, so I'm not beating up on cattle. Just you need to eat the properly raised animal proteins. But nonetheless, we just aren't getting the nutrients. And so just like if you don't plug your cell phone in at night to recharge with electricity, you won't have a cell phone that's working the next day. Or if you don't put gas in your car, you're not going to get very far. Your body is the same way, but nobody ever educates us on how it works and what it needs. And so what I've done is taken the mystery out of that, so it's not as frightening, it's not as mysterious, so that we don't turn to just the medical community for a pill, because a pill will just disguise the symptom. It will not address the original cause, and you have to go further upstream to find out what the cause is. And as I'm going to explain today, 90% of all of our diseases, advanced aging issues, whether it's Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, are due to mitochondria damage. And so if you can find a way, and algae is the easiest, effortless way to protect your mitochondria, because it needs certain nutrients, just like your car needs certain things and your phone needs certain things, and they're in the algae. So if I can help people understand how their body works, what they need to do to protect themselves, and why algae is the most effortless, proven, at least safe, at least ours is, way to do that, I've accomplished my goal, and hopefully stopped a few more people from getting cancer, or helped a few more people heal faster from it, or any other disease. So our entire society is in a state of chaos in terms of our health
and disease.
And it's not just the nutrition that we're missing, it's the toxins. We're surrounded, the average American adult apparently now has 700 toxins in their body, and our immune systems simply were not built to sustain that kind of toxic load. So as you're going to find out as we dig into this, spirulina is the algae that is very nourishing and protects your mitochondria, and chlorella is the algae that is detoxing and builds your immune system. They do completely different things, and they work beautifully together. They're really your superheroes as far as I'm concerned. So, and I'll help people understand why that is, because it's all science. No smoke and mirrors, no placebo. This is the real deal.
No woo-woo needed.
No woo-woo needed. Yeah.
It's funny because everyone, I think, who wasn't raised in a complete urban environment, and maybe even then, if you've walked to Central Park and you've seen the lake, you can see algae on top of a lake. You can the first place that most kids have seen algae is asking a parent and just out loud, what's that green stuff on top of the lake or on top of the pond, whatever it is, that's algae. Oh, okay. Yet I don't think anyone, at least not humans anyway, would think, oh, well, how do I get that goodness in me?
Exactly. Well,
I mean, animals do. Certainly you see animal life thriving where there's algae. But go ahead. I think
yeah.
you know where I'm
Well,
going
because
there.
we associate algae with something negative. Like algae is known to close beaches, so you get angry at the algae. And I tell people, poor algae gets the bum rap because algae kills bacteria, and so it only shows up where there are bacteria or toxins. But you can't see the bacteria or toxins, but you can see the algae. So it shows up and it will absorb all of the toxins and the bacteria, but that's why you don't want to get near algae blooms because they are now toxic. They're the cleanup act.
I see.
So they do the same thing in your body. They clear out toxins and kill bacteria. Part of it's from the high chlorophyll. Chlorophyll's been used for centuries for killing bacteria, even topically or during surgeries. So the first thing to know is that algae was the first life on Earth, and I tell people there's something pretty magical about that. You can only be the first life once, and it's everywhere. There are two main types of algae. One is called macroalgae, and the other one is microalgae. Macroalgae is that stringy stuff that you see washing up on shore, also known as seaweed or dulse or kelp. And it's very good for you because it has lots of fiber and iodine because it's from the sea. That's why they call it seaweed. But it has virtually zero nutrition. And that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about microalgae, which is called microalgae because it's microscopic in size. And unlike seaweed, which is only in the sea, microalgae is everywhere. It's in the sea, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil, your aquarium, your swimming pool, absolutely everywhere. And it is the most nutrient-dense food in the world. It's so tiny that something like 1 million cells of microalgae could fit on the head of a pin. And because it's so nutrient-dense, you start to understand why you get so much nutrition. We make them into little tiny tablets, about the size of a baby aspirin. But you start to understand when they're that small. By the way, algae feeds all the whales. They feed all the fish. Right. It provides 80% of the oxygen on Earth. So algae is very, very important to our ecosystem. But the type of algae we're talking about today, which is, and by the way, there's tens of thousands. There are only about a few strains of macroalgae, green and red.
Right.
But with microalgae, there's tens of thousands of strains of microalgae. And so when you see an algae bloom, which very often is a blue-green algae, that's not what we're talking about. Because what we're talking about is Spirulina and Chlorella, which are harvested as a food crop in fresh water. So yes, Spirulina is a blue-green algae, but it's not it's not the algae that's in the algae bloom that's closing your favorite beach.
Right.
So I want to assure people that, and 99% of Spirulina and Chlorella, whether you buy ours or you go to Whole Foods, it's grown in fresh water. So number one, not toxic from the ocean. We're renowned because our water is triple filtered, which is really important because algae will absorb whatever's in the water. So if you have toxic water or microtoxins like that you would find in lakes,
microplastics,
never ever eat algae that's grown in the ocean or a lake because you can't keep the microtoxins out, and they damage your brain and they damage your health.
You can't keep it out of the fish. You can't keep it out of anything that's in the ocean.
So first of all, it's because we grow it in fresh water, Spirulina and Chlorella, it's food. It's harvested as food. We call them bits because they are bits of food. So algae is everywhere, but the type that you'll find sold by us and other companies are grown in fresh water. Now, again, most companies aren't as careful the way they grow it. So you have, that's why we're so well known for our purity. So we grow it in fresh water, then we air dry it without high heat into a powder, and then press it into tiny tablets. Now, this part about drying it without high heat, this also is very important. You think, algae, what's the big difference? What's the big deal? And, it's like broccoli, right? Well, no, it's actually more like wine. There's lots of nuances to making wine, and there's a lot of nuances to growing algae and preserving the nutrition and protecting some things like the enzymes. And we're going to talk about one very important one. It's a long mouthful. It's called superoxide dismutase. And there's 25,000 studies, scientific studies, documenting how superoxide dismutase prevents heart disease, prevents damage to your brain, protects your telomeres, protects your mitochondria. But it's an enzyme. And all the other algae companies use high heat to dry their algae. So they're killing the enzyme. And they use high heat because they are lower priced, higher volume companies. Right. So they need to get to market quickly. So that's what they do, is just get it out to the market. I started the company because my sister had breast cancer. So all of my choices on production have been based on ensuring safety, purity. I actually honestly didn't know about superoxide dismutase when I started, but I did know enzymes were killed by high heat. So when you use our algae, and we'll talk about this later, you can use less of it and get more benefits. And you're just missing a lot of benefits from companies that use high heat, because also that high heat kills the blue pigment in spirulina called phycocyanin. I know all these long words, but that's a very important pigment. It doesn't exist anywhere else in nature, and it is scientifically proven to kill cancer cells and something called senescent cells, which are cells that are basically replicated and just hang around and are inflammatory, and you want to get rid of them. So phycocyanin does that, but if you use high heat to dry your spirulina, you kill the phycocyanin. So now you're shooting blanks. You're not getting half of the benefits of taking the spirulina. So, and we'll dive into that in a bit more. Awesome. But it is the most nutrient dense food in the world. And in fact, I love showing this slide. We have a quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of vegetables, 1 to 1,000. And it's because it's so tiny. And so when you consolidate it into these tablets, so I did the math and figured out 1 tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. And this is the answer, because we're finding that people aren't eating vegetables. And even if you are, as I mentioned earlier, you're not getting the nutrition. Bigger food, bigger tomatoes doesn't mean better tomatoes. The farmers are paid by weight, not by nutrition. So, as I said, you're not getting the nutrients you need, and that's why algae is your answer. A lot of people don't eat vegetables. 97% of Americans don't get their daily required amount of fiber and vegetable intake. And this solves the problem. Vegetables are heavy to carry home from the grocery store. They take a long time to clean, to cook, to eat. They go bad quickly. You throw out half of it. You argue with your kids. You argue with your husbands. This is the answer. You can have these for breakfast. By the way, there's 1 calorie.
I do.
0 carbs, 40 vitamins and minerals, the highest protein in the world. I'll get to that in a minute. 64% protein, 3 times the amount of protein as steak. And if you can swallow water, you can get the nutrition that you need. Like, I chew mine because I love them, but most people don't like.
I'll tell you a funny story about chewing them.
So
when I was introduced to these, I was in Miami at the biohacking congress.
Oh, sure.
And the young lady who was selling them, she had them in the little tin, but next to the tin she had pistachios.
Pistachio nuts, yeah.
And so I walked up. And I was kind of floating around, and I get very excited when I'm in these conferences, because all this wonderful energy and people and products. And I walked up and I started popping the pistachios in my mouth, and I was chewing them, and I was like, "These are great." I was like, "These are algae?" And she was like, she was trying to figure out what I had thrown in my mouth and was eating. She was like, "Which one did you eat?" And I said, that one. She goes, "No, those are pistachios." I said, "Oh shit." I said, "Because they're really good." I was like, "I could chew these all day." And she was like, "I got those at Whole Foods." She said, the energy bits are right here. And I was like, "Oh, okay. So but I picked them up.
we bring the pistachios with us to all the shows. In fact, we're going to the American Naturopathic Conference tomorrow, because the chlorella, which we call ENERGYbits, tastes delicious when you mix it with pistachios. Our favorite is the salt and vinegar flavor pistachios. There's a brand called Wonderful. You can get them at Whole Foods, Amazon. I will say, however, that nothing makes the spirulina taste better. So,
No.
Although kids seem to like to chew them, those of you who have children, you can give them one or half a tablet per their age. So if they're 10, give them 5 a day. If they're 12, give them 6 a day. They like it because they when they chew them, it turns their tongue green, and they think that's pretty funny. So they have
cool.
these little contests where they stick their tongue out, but you get the same benefits if you swallow them. So we don't want anyone to be angry because the spirulina is very chewy because of that high protein and the high essential fatty acids that does stick to your teeth a little bit. But the chlorella, it's very dry, tastes more like a soy nut. So just as on that note, they're very, very efficient nutrition. Again, using that quote from NASA about 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. I did the math and figured out, because we sell, most popular item are large bags with 1,000 tablets. So I figured out each bag has the equivalent nutrition of 551 pounds of vegetables. Wow. Now, I live in Boston, and organic food or vegetables cost about $3 a pound. So 1 bag of our algae tablets, we have a discount code we're going to share with you guys. So it brings the price, the $130 bag price, down to $104. So it works out to very efficient nutrition. And if you took 10 a day, it costs you $1 a day to preserve your health.
Wow.
And 551 pounds of vegetables at $3 a pound would be $1,600. So when you start to put it in that context, a bag, if you took 10 a day, would last you 3 months. This is the equivalent of about 30 grocery carts of vegetables that you didn't have to lug home from the store, stuff in your fridge, clean, cook, eat, and throw out when people didn't eat the rest of it. So it's very, very efficient nutrition. We put a expiry date on it that lasts 3 years, although technically it never goes bad. But so you could have it in your shelf for years and it would still be fine. So and ours, we pride ourselves on being the purest, safest, concentrated algae. So you truly get more than you would ever get from any of the other tablets. And it's pretty remarkable. For $1 a day to protect your health and get the nutrients that your body, your mitochondria need, your brain. I mean, honestly, it doesn't get any better. And they're not pills. I know they look like pills because they're these little tiny tablets. I've got 2 here. The darker one is spirulina. It's a blue-green algae. Chlorella is a green algae. It only has chlorophyll in it, so you can see the different colors. But I mean, I eat these all day long. I mean, I have a proper meal, but I use them for intermittent fasting because there's 0 carbs. It stops your hunger, improves your energy. I just hired a new VP sales, and within a month he lost 12 pounds because he's not hungry anymore. So,
they seriously help curb hunger. So I take 10 a day, and depends on the day, but I take minimum 10 a day, I should say.
Yeah.
If it's a day when I know I'm not going to have lunch, or I'm gonna, then I'll take more. Or if I'm recovering, or there's the very rare occasion when I'm going to go out for dinner and I know there's going to be drinks involved, then I'll take extra, because I found that the way I wake up the next morning is just much different when I take extra of those. I'm not sure why that is, but it always
I'll tell you
helps.
why. We'll get to the 2 algae in a second, because that chlorella, we recommend you take it at night because it pulls out toxins, including alcohol. So you will never have a hangover. You're sober in an hour and a half, and you'll wake you up fresh as a daisy. And it's because of the hard cell wall on the chlorella, and also the very high glutathione that pull all of the toxins, including alcohol, out of your bloodstream. So
that's why it works. I knew there was something there. Okay.
So we generally recommend you take them after. We're not, we don't want to party poop anybody. So, I mean, we did for a while work with a lot of wine tasters, and they were taking the chlorella, which we call ENERGYbits, before they were doing the wine tasting, because they didn't want to get drunk. And even when you're swishing and spitting, some of the alcohol would
of course
trickle down. So they would take this before, and it would it's sort of like a Roomba. It just sucks all the alcohol out of your bloodstream. So you just never get drunk. So generally, though, people take it after, once they get home and they're done for their for the day, but we'll get into that. So let's talk, if that's okay. Let's talk about the 2 different algae, because they do completely different things in your body. You take them at different times.
Absolutely.
So spirulina, and we call ours ENERGYbits, because it's known as an energizing algae. It has the highest concentration of protein in the world. All of the protein is in individual aminos. So they are like 99% bioavailable. Animal proteins all bound up. All the aminos are bound up. It can take days for you to get access to them. Collagen protein are bound up in smaller clusters called peptides. But algae protein is individual aminos, and there are 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 that your body can't make. So it's a complete protein. So what happens is, we call it ENERGYbits because it gives you energy in the moment, as well as when we get to the mitochondria piece, it improves the creation of ATP, which is cellular energy, which is more of a long-term thing. But on the short term, so it has all those rich aminos plus 40 vitamins and minerals, very high B vitamins. B vitamins convert the aminos into glucose, and that gives you energy mentally and physically. It's also a vasodilator, which means it opens up your blood vessels so all the oxygen and the nutrients can get to your brain and your body. It's very high in essential fatty acids. It's high in boron, which helps with your brain functioning. Has all these antioxidants like superoxide dismutase, which protect your mitochondria. So you get your hunger satisfied, and it's just steady energy. It's not a stimulant. Stimulants are caffeine, chemicals, or sugar. This is just nutrition. And so you might not even notice the energy, quite honestly. I call it quiet energy because it's just very subtle. It runs in the background. If you took 20 or 30 and then tablets and then had a workout, I promise you would have the best workout of your day, of your life. You would run faster or further. You would lift more, and you wouldn't even notice it. But on the other hand, you could just take them and stay at work, and your mental acuity will be improved. But there's no escalation of energy, and there's no drop.
No crash, yeah.
I say algae is no drama. It's steady eddy. And that's what you want, right, for your body. And when we get to the mitochondria piece, the other thing that it does, it has nutrients in it that improves the generation of ATP, which is what's called cellular energy. And so the cellular energy gives you longer term energy, not a stimulant again. It's just, I tell people cellular energy is like money. When you have more money, you can do more things and you have more choices. And when you have cellular energy, the same thing. You can just do more and have more choices. So your cellular energy can help fight a cold. It can improve your brain power. It can improve your gut. It can improve your sleep. Whatever it is, whatever you do, it's not an energy like a stimulant is. It just will improve
and
whatever it is.
It declines with age. And so if you're listening to this, and you are in your middle years, then you should be aware that your ability and your body's ability to create this effectively is beginning to decline. But
Absolutely,
you can make sure that it remains. And actually, I'm sure most people this would be an increase.
Oh, totally.
Because they just don't have anything like it. Yes,
absolutely, everybody. So whether you're a high performance athlete in your 20s or you are a retiree in your 70s or 80s, you should be taking this every single day to preserve what you have and protect you from what you don't want. It's unbelievable. So most people want energy and their hunger satisfied in the morning, in the afternoon, before a workout. So that's when we generally recommend you take ENERGYbits. By the way, we have 2 brands of spirulina, and the only reason why there's 2 is because when I created the company, we had one spirulina and we had one chlorella, which we call ENERGYbits. But I found that women didn't like the packaging, and because I started the company because of my sister, and because it has more collagen than collagen powder, and stops free radical damage of your skin, my girlfriend said you got to give it your spirulina a cute name and make it pink. So we have a pink version of spirulina and a blue version, but they are absolutely identical. I'm not trying to trick anybody. I just want people to feel comfortable with it. And so women love this one. I love this. This is what I have on my counter, and guys like this one. So someone said, oh, you got a girl spirulina and a boy spirulina. So that's pretty much it. But they are absolutely identical. So whatever makes you happy. So that's spirulina, very nourishing, high protein, very energizing at a stable, quiet level. Now, the other algae is called chlorella, and it's a wellness algae. Does not give you energy, does not satisfy your hunger. It's a wellness and detox algae, and so we call it ENERGYbits because it helps you recover from your day, recover from your sport, recover from drinking, or it will certainly help you recover or protect you from any kind of immune health issues. So how does that work? Why does it do that? Well, spirulina has the highest protein in the world, but chlorella has the highest chlorophyll in the world. And what I'm showing you is a picture of chlorophyll chemical composition and your hemoglobin. And you'll notice that they're virtually identical. And so one of the big reasons for chlorophyll is that it builds your blood. So, and when you have a healthy blood, you're going to have a healthy body, a healthier organ, healthier gut. But the problem is, because of the situation with our soils, there's virtually no chlorophyll in our vegetables anymore. My arugula goes yellow after day 3. I don't know about you. So
GMO'd right out of them.
GMO'd right out of them. And chlorella has 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula, and it has 25 times more chlorophyll than liquid chlorophyll. And liquid chlorophyll has been very popular recently, but I tell people, why would you take liquid chlorophyll when you can take chlorella, which not only has more chlorophyll, but it also has 60% protein, 40 vitamins and minerals, all sorts of nutrients that aren't found in any other food that will protect your mitochondria. It's the real deal. So that's number one about chlorophyll. The other cool thing about chlorophyll is that it's a fat-based pigment. The blue pigment in spirulina, which is called phycocyanin, I'll spell it out for you later, it's a water-based pigment. Why is that important? Fats, your cell walls are made of lipids. It's a fancy way of saying fats. And so that's why you need vitamin D and omega-3 and E, because those fats keep your cell walls permeable. Well, chlorophyll does the same thing because it's a fat-based pigment. So you can heal your cell walls from chlorophyll just like you could from omega-3. And I tell people, when you have dirty windows, you can't see out and sunlight can't get in. And so think of chlorophyll as window washers for your cell walls. It makes everything work. People go on these greens cleanses. And so that's one of the things that's helping is when your cell walls are permeable, nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. And so, spirulina has lots of chlorophyll, but chlorella, which again we call ENERGYbits, has the highest in the world. That's why it's called chlorella, because of the chlorophyll. So that's one of the healing benefits. The other amazing benefit of chlorella is that it has the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. Spirulina, which I forgot to mention, has 0 cell wall. It is not even a plant. It is a bacteria. It has no cellulose wall, which is why it gets absorbed so quickly into your body. There's nothing for your body to break down to get access to all the rich amino acids, B vitamins, and all that sort of good stuff. Chlorella is completely opposite. Hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. And so it has to be cracked at production. Now, we'll tell you something about that cracked production process in a minute. But what I want you to know now is that that hard cell wall attaches to toxins. Let all the heavy metals, lead, mercury, radiation, aluminum, glyphosate, pesticides, and chelates them, which means pulls them out of your body. But you need enough. So like most people take 10 spirulina as a base level of spirulina to take. And for wellness benefits, helping your cell walls, 10 chlorella would be sufficient. But for detox purposes, so if you want to pull that alcohol out after your drink, or you want to pull the lactic acid out after your workout, you need closer to 20 or 30 to get the detox benefits. Okay,
good to know.
Which leads me to when people take them. Spirulina, you want energy during the day, in the morning, in your mid-afternoon slump before a workout. So this is very much a morning, afternoon algae. Chlorella, because it pulls out toxins and builds your immune system, which happens while you're sleeping, we generally recommend you take it before bed. Just because this will give you a better detox, a better repair. The chlorophyll also stimulates peristalsis, also known as bowel movements, so you can get rid of the trunk.
Good to hear. Yeah.
So I came up with this analogy because I speak at a lot of conferences at nice hotels, and it dawned on me that spirulina because it's so nourishing, and you take it in the morning. It's kind of like room service at a hotel, right? Get you everything you need to get out and for the day. And chlorella, because it's detoxing and cleansing and pulls all the stuff that you don't want out and gets rid of it, it's like housekeeping. So think of spirulina as room service and chlorella as housekeeping. And another way to remember it, and we'll get to this in a minute, because spirulina has so many nutrients that heal your mitochondria, and your brain has the most mitochondria per cell, 2 million mitochondria per cell in your brain. This is very much brain food. You know, people know that fatty fish is considered brain food. And quite honestly, it's because of the omega-3 found in those fatty fish. And where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from?
The source.
From algae.
From algae.
So think of spirulina, because it heals your mitochondria and you have the most of it in your brain, as brain food. This is brain food. Chlorella, because it builds your immune system and pulls out toxins, and it has fiber that feeds your gut biome, all those short chain fatty acids, and your immune system, by the way, 80% of it is in your gut. This is a gut wellness algae. So brain food, mitochondria, gut, and health. So they do completely, so this works from the top down. Think of chlorella as working from the bottom up. So they do completely different things, and they benefit different parts of your body for different reasons. So they're as I say, they're quite different. So yeah.
Awesome. Complementary they are.
Very complementary. Yeah.
You know, I had 2 amalgams removed, replaced.
Oh gosh.
Because and what's crazy is my for everyone listening, an amalgam is a filling that they shouldn't be putting in people's mouths anymore. And yet they do, and
mercury,
you know, they argue that the mercury in the amalgam is different than that poisonous stuff that's found in the tuna fish that we catch.
Yeah.
And they argue that because they say that this mercury is bound, except that when people have a filling in their mouth for 15, 20, 30 years, it starts to break down.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you literally, if you should check, if you go to a regular dentist, good luck. You know, they don't even believe that there's anything wrong with putting a mercury time bomb in your mouth. So you probably would need a holistic dentist, but I had 2 out, and you're supposed to go on all these protocols, but I'm pretty healthy, and I take a lot of supplements, and I work out regularly, and I've been crazy busy. And this appointment got put off and put off and put off. And so finally, I just showed up, and they were like, "Are you on the protocols?" I was like, "Yeah, mostly. Don't worry about it." You know. So they were like, because you know, it's when they're taking this out, it's, you know, it's a risk, and they know your immune system is likely going to be at least slightly exposed. If they do their job right, then it won't be a big deal. But you know, as soon as I got back, like 3-4 hours later, my nose started to run, and I was like, son of a bitch. And I was like, and my friend was like, dude, you know, it has to be, you have to be exposed, because there's air. It's going to hit the air, and it's going to, you know, it's close enough to you to where you should have known better. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take like 20 of these freaking, of these energy bits I have, the chlorella ones, because I knew that they would, help my body, like whatever it was exposed to, help my body recover. And in fact, you know, it was two days later, you know, I was kind of back to normal. You can still kind of hear it a little bit in my voice. My regulars will be able to hear it a little bit, but I was better in a day. So that was incredible.
Yeah. It is amazing. Well, we work with biological dentists. They take it when they take out the fillings, because it is in the air, and so they're going to be breathing it. And they highly recommend it. It's been used for decades for that reason. So, but there's mercury everywhere. So, and again, both of these algae are not ones that you should take just sporadically. This is your health insurance, honestly. You should be taking these every single day. And by the way, because there's so much protein and there's so much chlorophyll and so many nutrients, your grocery bills will go down. we had an 85-year-old woman who wrote us, and she said, "Oh my God, I couldn't sleep. I was incontinent. I had no energy." And she started taking both the algae, and within days, she said her energy improved. She was able to sleep 6 hours.
Wow.
She didn't need any food. She ate one meal a day. Her groceries bills went down. She gave us a list of the things that she did. Like today, she says, I went to see my grandson playing basketball. I visited my friends in the nursing home. I painted my kitchen. I cleaned up my garage. And she goes to CrossFit. An 85-year-old woman, right?
Wow.
So honestly, it's you're replacing stuff that's mediocre with something that's very efficient, very easy, and very safe. At least ours is. So you do get great value nutritionally, and it also saves you time. In the spirulina or the chlorella, but particularly the spirulina, you can replace your multivitamin, your fish oil. Please stop taking fish oil. Most of it's rancid. And by the way, the tablets never repeat. I could never take fish oil. I tried so many times because I would always be burping it up. This never burps up at all. So it replaces your your fish oil, CoQ10, biotin, probably a lot of other things. So honestly, you will spend less money, and it simplifies your life. And they travel everywhere. You can put them in your gym bag, your handbag, your travel bag. I never travel anywhere. I couldn't imagine going anywhere without these things. They are definitely my lifeline. And, I didn't tell you, but those who are watching this on a video, I'm almost 67. I turn 67 next week. Next month. Wow. So my skin, my mind, and I recently did some biomarker tests to determine, my biological age. And it turns out my biological age, because I did it before and after some algae that I had at a show when I was at the Dave Asprey show last in June. My biological age dropped to 32 after within half an hour of taking my algae, and I'm 67. So you don't have to. There's a guy, I don't know his name right now, but he's a very successful, wealthy business person. I think he started a company called Braintree. Anyways, he's been spending $2 million a year for the last 3 years, trying everything from all the devices to stem cell therapy. And in 2 years or 3 years and $5 million, he's been able to get 5 years off his biological age. Right. $5 million took 3 years. For me, I ate the equivalent of $6 worth of algae, waited half an hour, and I dropped 32 years. So
that's crazy.
You do the math.
Were they testing your markers in real time? What kind of tests were they?
Yeah, so it's called in fact, we're going to get one of these devices because it was so powerful. It was Brain Tap.
It was Brain Tap. Okay.
Yeah, and they usually have people do this test. They put these little things on your wrists.
I've had one on,
Your HRV and your parasympathetic and your sympathetic system and all that sort of stuff. And then usually they have you do the Brain Tap. And then they compare what your markers were before Brain Tap and after Brain Tap. But for me, they said, let's do an experiment. Let's do you baseline, because I actually hadn't had any algae that morning. Go and have some algae. So I did I had a pouch of spirulina and a pouch of chlorella. So technically it was $12 worth of algae, not $6.
Okay, good to be honest.
I waited 45 minutes because chlorella takes a little longer to get into your bloodstream. And then they tested me again. And I blew up all of their markers. I was at 100% on everything except 2, where I was at 80%. And then I did the Brain Tap head device, and I hit 100% in everything. But I got to the biological age of 32 even before the Brain Tap device on my head, which was stunning. And we're going to be working with them on a lot of things because it's a great combination. By the way, apparently when you use Brain Tap, because it does help your brain function better, they've done tests to show that your absorption rate of nutrition increases 30%. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because the body is not in that low grade state of fight or flight. So and so that's entrainment, brain entrainment, meditation is so important. And I know Dr. Porter, and I've had him on the show a couple times.
Yeah, he's great. I've known Dr. Porter for 7 years. He and I used to do the chiropractic shows years ago, there'd be like 4 vendors. We'd be in the hallway. And
Yeah.
so I am so happy that they're blowing up. They deserve every bit
Oh
of it.
yeah.
He's done an
Hard earned.
amazing
Yeah.
job, amazing research. They're a great company, great product. Definitely get yourself a brain tap. Yeah, this device was called NeuroCheck that they use.
Yeah. It's a program. It's a program.
It's a program. They
Yeah.
developed they developed part of the program. So we're going to be buying the NeuroCheck program so that when we go to shows, we can have people get their biomarkers done, go have some algae, come back in an hour later, and I can promise everyone that you'll see that your biological age dropped as well. I mean, I'm pretty healthy, so because I eat so much algae and have for 13 years, so you may not get your age dropping in 50 by 100%, but it did for me, and I got the numbers, I got the reports.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a big difference. It's just like when you were talking about the 85-year-old woman who had no energy, you know, and wasn't doing anything because of it. But then you put the right fuel in her body, and all of a sudden she feels like a new person. And so she wants, you know, she's taking it out for a test drive, and naturally she wants to do everything that she couldn't do before.
Exactly.
But I just think it's so important, you know, especially with given how completely gone. But I mean, you can, you know, Dr. Zach Bush, who I love and admire, and I'm a student of his. I love his work. You know, he talks about this. You know, when he opened his clinic and was putting cancer patients on an all vegetable diet, some of them were getting worse, and he was flabbergasted. He was like, you know, I knew they weren't lying. I knew they were coming to me and saying, I'm eating everything that you said. And so that's when he started looking into the vegetables and into the soil to see what's going on, you know, and he found that there's the dramatic reduction of all these key vitamins and minerals, you know, they've been literally genetically modified.
They've just been sucked out.
Out of the vegetables. So even if you are a vegetarian and or a vegan and you have the healthiest diet, you know, and even my carnivores, you know, because I tend to skew more on the carnivore side.
Yeah.
I take these because I probably couldn't eat enough vegetables to get the nutrition I needed anyway with my lifestyle and the amount of exercise I try to do. So I really think they are for everybody.
Absolutely everybody. And I'm glad you mentioned the carnivores because they are perfect for carnivores.
Yes, they are.
And one of the reasons why people go into a carnivore diet is because they've had such gut issues from the lectins and oxalates in many of the vegetables. Lectins and oxalates are very pointy proteins that are found in high concentrations in certain foods, like all the nightshade vegetables. So that's red peppers, green peppers, nuts. Nuts like almonds are very high in the oxalates. But and so if you don't know what lectins and oxalates are, they're things that the plants have developed over centuries. That these proteins that are poisonous to bugs and predators. They taste terrible, and they're very pointy, so they cause digestive problems. So it was their method of protecting themselves, evolutionary. But there aren't any in algae because algae's not a land plant. It's from the sea. So it's never had to develop these protective measures of lectins and oxalates because it started in the sea. So carnivores, listen up. We want you to get all the nutrients you need. You don't need to eat carbs. But you will get the nutrients you need without lectins or oxalates. That's why I've been on Dr. Gundry's podcast twice, and I'm going to be on it again soon. And he has a great book called The Plant Paradox, where he talks to about this very fact that plants can be good for you, but they also have a dark side.
Yeah.
And if you're susceptible to these lectins and oxalates, as I was, because I used to eat tons of almonds and I hardly eat them anymore because they gave me such stomach distress. As soon as I got rid of them, things improved. So they're great for paleo, carnivore. Keto. There isn't any more ancestral food in the world than algae.
It's true. We can't go further back than that.
It's just the way it is. And when we finish up, I'll give you a quick little summary about how we're going to get to mitochondria now, but mitochondria actually evolved from algae. So explains to me why they are so protective of your mitochondria, because your mitochondria determine your health. It's that simple. I tell people I never eat alone. I always eat with my mitochondria. So when you start to understand what they are and what they do for you, it's no different than understanding you have to plug your phone in order for it to work. You have to protect your mitochondria if you want to live a life that is pain-free, long, and gives you all the activity, mental acuity and physical activity that you need to live a life. And it doesn't matter what age you start at, because a lot of these diseases, which are based on damaged mitochondria, start when you're in your 20s, because the damage that's occurring in our world is hitting people earlier and earlier. So you got to start now. And so anyways.
Yeah. No, but what you said about mitochondria, that's fascinating. I had no idea. I'm learning left and right from you. You know, I did not realize that that mitochondria had this relationship to algae and
well,
basic.
I'll explain. Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
tell you.
Jump into it.
Hang in there.
Okay.
I couldn't make this up. When I discovered this, it was like the science has been around for 50 years, but no one's shared it. So that's what I do. So let me help you understand. Again, just remember, you know how your cell phone works. You know how your car works. So now I'm going to tell you how your body works, so you can learn how to plug in and get the energy you need, which will come effortlessly from algae and gives you what you need in ways that no other food, no other supplement can do. So here's your cell. And in the cell, you have your nucleus, and these little peanut-shaped things are the mitochondria. Now, people know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. They do a whole lot more than that, but it is the most important thing. And in the mitochondria is where the ATP is produced. Mm-hmm. But what they don't tell you is that a byproduct of ATP are free radicals. So, and what you also probably never knew is that your mitochondria have their own DNA. Yes, you have 22,000 regular DNA in your cells. And by the way, those last a lifetime because they're nowhere near where all the ATP and the free radicals are produced. Your mitochondria have only 37 DNA. But those 37 control all of your other 22,000. They control cellular communication. They control everything. I say they're like air controllers at an airport, because when they crash, your health crashes. It's that simple. So inside your mitochondria, where the ATP is produced and the free radicals are produced, are where your mitochondria DNA are. And so they're getting bombarded by free radicals every nanosecond, because they're right where all the ATP and free radicals are being produced, nowhere near where your regular DNA is. They're way over here in the cheap seats. Mm-hmm. So the way I describe it to people is, if you've ever been near a bonfire or a fireplace and you got too close, sparks would fly, right? And you might get burned. Well, that's happening to your DNA, your mitochondria DNA. And when they get burned, they mutate or they die. And when you have fewer mitochondria, as you do as you get older, you have less ability to generate ATP. That means, and remember, this ATP is more than just running to the store or doing activities.
It's all function, yeah.
This ATP fuels your immune system, your digestion, your brain, absolutely everything. So when you have less of it, everything works poorer, and it gets worse and worse and worse. So the key to life is to protect your mitochondria. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. This is a mitochondria that's healthy, because there's something called the electron transport chain, which I won't get into too much detail. But when your mitochondria are damaged, the electron transport chain expands, so they can't transfer electrons as well. So when more electrons get leaked out, they release more free radicals. Yeah. So over time, you get more and more damage. And I tell people, the electrons are, when they go through what's called the electron transport chain, it's sort of like a relay race. Everybody knows a relay race, right? Someone has a baton and they run a certain distance and they pass it to the next person who takes it the next distance, and eventually, hopefully you cross the finish line. Well, there's this thing called the electron transport chain inside your mitochondria, and this is how your ATP is produced. So, but instead of passing a baton from one another, they pass electrons. So, but the trouble is, when your mitochondria get damaged, your DNA get damaged, the those stations where they're passing the electrons become further and further apart from one another. I tell people it's like asking Tom Brady to make a pass in a stadium that's 5 times the size of a regular stadium. Yeah. It can't be done. So when they pass the electrons, more and more electrons get released, which cause more and more free radical damage. And it's a downward cycle. Once it happens, it's almost impossible to stop. But there is good news. There's 2 ways to stop the mitochondria damage from all these free radicals. And here's the 2 ways. You can either reduce the free radicals that are being produced, because, by the way, carbs, sugar, processed foods generate the most free radicals. Right. If you go on a keto or low carb diet, you'll have fewer free radicals. But here's the great thing. Algae or fasting, intermittent fasting, long-term fasting, creates virtually no free radicals. So the easiest thing to do to protect your mitochondria is to eat algae every day, do intermittent fasting if you can every day, and certainly reduce your carb load, because that carb load is killing you. It's literally killing your mitochondria because more electrons escape during that process, and it's a slippery slope. So that's number 1. To reduce the number of free radicals it's a very simple equation. Just take algae and get rid of those carbs. Right. So the next way to do it is to remove the free radicals. Okay. Now we know that antioxidants have always been used for protecting us from free radicals. By the way, a free radical is a molecule that has an unpaired electron. And so what it does is it steals an electron from another molecule and causes damage in the process. And in this mitochondria generation of ATP, there is the most damaging free radical found in your entire body. It's called superoxide. And I was curious about, well, what's so damaging about this superoxide free radical? Well, it turns out it has 3 unpaired electrons. So it causes 3 times as much damage as your regular free radical. And the only thing that stops it is something called superoxide dismutase. This is an enzyme, an antioxidant that is found in the highest concentration in algae in the world. And so what it does is it stops the free radical damage. Basically, what it does is it turns the free radicals into water. It's like having a fireman in there. So when you get superoxide dismutase like you have in, especially spirulina has the highest concentration, it literally converts that high damaging superoxide free radical into water. Ta-da! Wow. No harm. 0, right? And there are other antioxidants that also work. There's one called glutathione, and also melatonin and chlorophyll. These can get into that inner membrane. I'll explain in a minute why there is that inner membrane. But you can eat vitamin C, blueberries, vitamin E. Right. None of that ever will get into this inner membrane. Those are all antioxidants, but they cannot get into the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Drugs can't get in there either. Only a handful of specialized antioxidants, which happen to be found in the highest concentration in algae. And they aren't found in any other food to any medicinal quantities. But here's the good news. Your body makes superoxide dismutase, glutathione, as well as, doesn't make chlorophyll, melatonin, and glutathione, melatonin, and superoxide from the moment you're born. Yeah. Until you're about 30. And after the age of 30, because honestly, Mother Nature thinks we used to die at 30, so everything kind of just stops after 30. It drops and drops and drops, and this is exactly when chronic disease hits, after 30. When you're at 40, did you know that 60% of Americans over the age of 40, 60% have a chronic disease? Yeah. And when you get to age 65, that goes up to 80%. Why? Because their mitochondria are no longer being produced by those antioxidants that their body automatically made when they were younger. And they don't know about algae yet. So we're going to try to help the world understand that. Because once you start taking the quantities of glutathione, melatonin, superoxide dismutase, and chlorophyll, which can get into that inner membrane. Those glutathione and the superoxide dismutase reduces the damage of the mitochondria, and the chlorella pulls out toxins.
Wow.
Those two combined flatline inflammation. Inflammation is what causes all disease.
That's right.
And all inflammation is caused by damaged mitochondria. Now I'm going to tell you, why there is that inner membrane in your mitochondria, because all of your other cells, including mitochondria, have just one cell membrane. It's a lipid membrane. Remember I mentioned that earlier? Mm-hmm. But your mitochondria have a second impenetrable inner membrane. None of those antioxidants, except the ones found in algae, can get in there. So remember how at the very beginning I said that algae was the first life on Earth, and it was what's called a cyanobacteria. And nobody knows why it started growing, but it was an anaerobic cell, which means it grew best without oxygen. Because before algae, there was only gas and water, no oxygen on Earth.
Right.
Nobody knows why this anaerobic cell started growing, but it did. And after 1 billion years, now there was a lot of oxygen on Earth. So other aerobic cells that were larger could start growing. But the anaerobic cell, which started it all, was called a cyanobacteria, like spirulina, was struggling because it didn't do well in oxygen. So I can imagine the conversation between the big aerobic cell to the little guy saying, hey, little guy, I see you're struggling there. How about we protect you from all the oxygen? And we're not generating ATP very well. So how about you come and generate ATP for us? And that's basically what happened. So here's the original cell, anaerobic cell, by itself for 1 billion years. Then bigger aerobic cells came about and absorbed the little cell.
Look at that. Wow.
And instead of digesting it, they coexisted and it became mitochondria. This is all documented in what's called evolutionary science. It's endosymbiotic theory. So it doesn't matter. You go in PubMed, look at the history of mitochondria. This is explained in thousands and thousands of papers. And this is why there's that inner membrane. It's left over from when it was a cell all by itself. It didn't disappear. Your cell just put another membrane around it. But this explains to me why algae has everything that your mitochondria need to survive and to be protected and to thrive. It's because they came from the same place, effectively. So, and has the nutrients that you need to be healthy and again, your brain has the highest concentration of mitochondria. Your eye also has the second highest, and then women's eggs and your heart. That's where. So your mitochondria are located where the highest energy needs are, and so you need. There's a great book that came out that I highly recommend to people called Brain Energy by Dr. Chris Palmer. He's a psychiatrist at the Harvard Medical School, and I know Chris. His entire book is about all brain disorders are due to damaged mitochondria. And once you can clear up the damaged mitochondria, then your neurons, everything starts working. It doesn't matter whether it's post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and he's right. And so algae is the best way to protect your brain because it has those nutrients like superoxide dismutase, it protects your telomeres, and it does it with food. Remember, this is food. It is not a drug, not a supplement. So maybe you're taking your 10 algae tablets because you want to get out the door faster and get to work. Well, at the same time, you're protecting your brain. Or maybe you want to take it because you want to improve your skin. Well, at the same time, you're protecting your heart. And maybe you're having some infertility, so you take it for those reasons. And at the same time, you're going to improve your energy. The list is endless, and it's all science-based. Mm-hmm. So it makes me very proud to help people understand the way that they can gain back or protect their health, their longevity, their mental acuity, their skin, simply and easily, just with algae tablets. Again, the spirulina is the one that gives you the energy, and so it's kind of it's the blue-green algae, and the chlorella is for the immune system. So, and you take the spirulina in the morning or the day, and the chlorella before bed. But That's it. That's, you could live
It's
on these
amazing.
forever. They're so nutrient dense.
Um, so I have two questions for you, Catherine.
Okay.
Should I be taking more than five? Because I take five of each a day, and
Oh yeah, totally.
I could totally take more, right?
Absolutely. I would take 20 a day. You'll start to feel more.
Yeah,
Five is kind of like just your entry point, but you're a busy guy, you
yeah.
work out, uh, especially before a workout, 20 or 30 would, and we'll send you some more.
Oh, cool.
You'll start to feel, and there is no upper limit.
Right.
We have NHL players who take 75 spirulina before a game,
Wow.
and for their energy on the ice and the focus, and they take 75 chlorella after the game to pull out lactic acid so their muscles aren't
Wow.
sore.
That's a great
We fuel
idea.
NHL teams, or like I mentioned, sorry, Olympic teams. There is no upper limit. I don't want to tell you how much I eat, but I eat a lot, more than that even,
Okay.
and have for 13 years. So it's just food, the most concentrated, and
Yeah.
ours is. I didn't mention about the chlorella. I did talk about the cracking the cell wall, but almost everybody else uses the original technique, which is to crack it by tumbling it with glass beads, but the glass heats up and lead gets into the chlorella.
Oh,
So now you're taking chlorella to remove heavy metals and you're introducing it. So we use a technique that we pass the chlorella through a sound chamber, and it's the vibrations that crack the chlorella. So we only sell through doctors and prestige spas online. Our website is ENERGYbits.com. I did promise a 20% discount code, which is the letters FOWF, which of course stands for Far Out with Host. So you'll get your 20% off. But give yourself do yourself a favor. Get this
yeah.
for yourself. Take this every day. Get it for your family. Get it for your children, your pets. Ours, we do third-party lab tests here in the United States. We're the only company I know that does that because we sell through doctors. I can't speak for other companies. Lots of people use ours and they go, "Well, it's so expensive." So I went and bought some cheaper stuff. They always come back because remember, those other companies are using high heat, which kills some of these critical nutrients that are protecting your mitochondria. And that's what you want. You want to protect those mitochondria, especially as
Yeah.
you age. You have less of them and you need to get them back. And you can, because your cells are constantly regrowing. But you have to give them the right nutrition to give them a good
That's right.
solid
And
base.
food
So
is medicine. To let anyone tell you differently.
food is
I
medicine.
want to also add this because I've thought a lot about this since I started taking these about I think just over a year ago, and I would say within a month or two. I mean, I've obviously reprioritized my health, and everything kind of changed for me around 2019, 2020, right around the health crisis
Yeah,
that changed
yeah,
everything for everyone.
yeah,
But, I used to deal with, I guess you could call them seasonal sinus issues. I would get the occasional cold. And I just want to say, up until a couple days ago when I had that filling out, I hadn't had a cold. I hadn't had a sinus infection, or I hadn't had anything of the sort for well over a year, and
yeah,
I've been keeping track, and I really think that part of because it wasn't that I was just sitting around, or just living kind of totally straight edged, because I make my rounds, I travel a lot. I do love going out to dinner and having a good time with friends on the rare occasion that happens at my age. But I had not really had felt a lot of health benefits from being consistent in taking these wonderful little bits. So I
yeah.
wanted to add that, and I wanted
Thank
to
you.
thank you for when I saw you speak over a year ago. I was the first thing I did was buy some for my twin brother
Oh,
whose health was not right where mine was, and he was like, I gave him these big bags. I was like, just start taking
yeah, yeah.
it. And he did, and
Good
his health
man.
is also improved. I got them from my parents, but getting my parents to take anything consistently is a
Yeah.
challenge. But I am reaping the benefits of it, and I'm so grateful for your time. I heard you speak. I was like, man, she's a firecracker. She's so knowledgeable, and said one day I'm going to speak to her, and
Oh, nice. Well,
here
thank
we
you
are.
so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for what you do, because it takes a lot of us to turn this big ship around. And I'm committed. I'm 13 years in, and probably another 13 years or thereabouts to go. So, but we're making progress. So,
Yes.
but somebody had to. Like I tell people, 10 years ago, you didn't know about collagen powder until Vital Proteins came along, and you
Right.
didn't probably know about chia or matcha or quinoa, even though they'd been used in other countries by the
It's
indigenous
true.
peoples for centuries. And algae is a multi-billion, that's with a B, dollar agricultural crop in Asia. It's as big as the beef industry is here.
Wow.
So this is not anything new. The Egyptians used it 2,000 years ago. The Aztecs used it 250 years ago. The Asians have been taking it daily for 60 years. Get on the algae train, ladies and gentlemen. Like, why should you be the last ones to enjoy the health benefits when other countries are doing it and they're not going to tell you about it? So that's what I'm doing. I want people here to start enjoying better health, because what we have is a disaster.
It is a disaster.
Nothing short of a disaster. So
that's very true.
This little gift from Mother Nature is your health insurance. So swallow them if you don't like the flavor. I promise you they will reduce your grocery bills, your supplements bills, improve your health, improve your brain, improve your children. What have you got to lose? So
and they're affordable. Listen, my God, they're very affordable, especially in today's.
Well, 10 tablets a day works out to $1 a day, so that's affordable. And if you don't want to take the big plunge and buy a bag of 1,000 tablets, which I completely understand, just go on Amazon. You can buy the single pouches for $6. Try them out for $6, and then come back to the website and use ENERGYbits.com and use FOWF for your 20% off.
Far Out with Faust, FOWF. You look for in the video description. You'll see the discount code.
Yes.
Use the discount code. Take advantage. I'm all about spreading health and happiness.
Yeah.
And so it was a joy to bring this.
Thank you.
All this wonderful science and look, health is happiness. So you can't separate the two. So I'm so grateful for your time and all the energy you put into this wonderful,
well,
for bringing this product to this part of the world.
Been a journey.
It's a gift. I bet it has. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Faust.
You take care,
I love
Catherine.
it. You've been great. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.